Cameron, this one is for you. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Evelyn and today we're talking about romance. So I recently filmed a video with my friend Cameron, which may or may not be out on my channel yet, but we briefly talked about the kind of books that she enjoys reading. She's definitely not a reader. I recently forced her to read the Percy Jackson series, and although she liked it, she did say it was a little bit outside of her comfort zone. And that got me thinking about different young adult contemporary romances, because that's what she said she liked to read, and I realized I haven't really specifically recommended any on this channel yet. So I thought, why not recommend some standalone young adult contemporary romances? And I wanted to do a separate video on my favorite contemporary romance series. So that'll be coming later. First book I have for you guys is Again But Better by Christine Riccio. This novel released earlier this year and it was highly anticipated because Christine is a booktuber, and I do believe that some pressure was put on it because of that, and there was some harsh judgment, but I honestly really enjoyed this, and I think that if you're just looking for something cute and not super serious, that this is a perfect read for you. The main character, Shane, is a pre-med student who dreams about being a writer. She's been super unhappy with her college experience so far. She feels like she doesn't like her major, she doesn't have friends, she's just been going through the motions. And so she heads off to London for a semester abroad, hoping to kind of reboot her life and start over. However, sometimes second chances can be a little bit more complicated than one might expect. One of my favorite things about this book is that it takes place in Europe and the characters visit a lot of famous European cities and do a bunch of cheesy tourist things. Being abroad and being able to do cute touristy romantic things with someone. The part of me that wants that for myself really loved reading this book. And there is a super interesting twist halfway through this book that kind of elevates it for me above just being something super cheesy and romantic. Like, it's very, very unique. I've never seen anything like this in what is mostly a standard contemporary novel, and so I really appreciated it, and I would totally recommend it. As long as you don't have super high expectations, I think you'll really enjoy it. Next is a book that I don't have with me because it is currently living in my dorm room in Iowa, and that is Don't Date Rosa Santos by Nina Moreno. It's a few weeks before her high school graduation, and all that Rosa Santos can do is dream about next fall when she will be studying abroad at the University of Havana in Cuba. At least that's what she hopes to be doing, but she has to tell her grandmother first, and Cuba is sort of a sore subject. Years ago, when Mimi Santos and her husband fled from Cuba, he ended up drowning on the way there, and she made it to the US with her daughter, but lost her husband, and that was Rosa's grandfather. And then years later, Rosa's father was lost at sea when he was out fishing when her mother was pregnant with her. And so everyone believes that the Santos women are cursed, and that if you are a boy with a boat, you should not go anywhere near them. But when Rosa's beloved hometown of Port Coral, Florida becomes threatened, the town teams up to put on a festival to help raise the money to save their marina. And Rosa's job is to help plan a wedding, and the boy, Alex, who's helping her, happens to be a very cute boy with a boat. This is one of my favorite books of all time, one of the cutest romances I've ever read, but at the same time it addresses family relationships and issues with being a second or third generation immigrant in America, issues of how am I able to claim my culture when I haven't actually lived it like the people who came before me have. It's a wonderful, wonderful book, and it always makes me cry every time that I pick it up. but also just makes me so deliriously happy, and I don't think I will ever stop recommending it. Next we have The Library of Lost Things by Laura Taylor Namey. Main character Darcy is a collector of words. She finds refuge within the pages of books from the chaos of her everyday life. Darcy's mother is actually a hoarder, and they've been able to keep that fact under wraps for most of Darcy's life, only letting certain people that they really trust know about it. But the longer the problem persists, the harder and harder it is to keep it under wraps, especially when they have a new property manager for their apartment who keeps snooping around. Darcy's terrified that a stranger is going to discover her mother's secret, and that they will get kicked out of their apartment, and that maybe Darcy herself will even be taken out of her mother's custody. There are only a few weeks left before she turns 18 and graduates from high school, and won't have to fear that anymore, and she is counting down the days. That's when Asher Fleet enters the picture. He is an unexpectedly cute yet also complicated boy who walks into the bookshop where Darcy works one day. And as she and Asher begin to get closer, it becomes harder and harder to keep her personal life and her home life separate. I related to Darcy so much because I also like to hide in fictional worlds whenever things in my real life aren't going necessarily according to plan, and so just reading about a character who doesn't have the same problems as me but deals with them in a similar way was really great. And then also just the romance was really adorable, and I really enjoyed the fact that Asher had his own things going on. He's actually recovering from a life-threatening car crash that he was in, and you know, sometimes it seems like the love interests in YA novels are just there purely to exist as a love interest and don't necessarily have their own stuff going on, but Asher was also a well-rounded character, and I really appreciated that. Okay, so this would not be a list by me if there weren't at least one Pride and Prejudice retelling on this list, and I've picked by far the cheesiest, tropiest, most fluffy and wonderful one that I've got in my repertoire, and that is Prom and Prejudice by Elizabeth Eilberg. Lizzie Bennet is a scholarship student at the prestigious Longbourn Academy for Girls, which makes her a bit of an outcast when it comes to her peers. They are all very rich, spoiled humans. And this is especially apparent when it becomes prom season, because prom at Longbourn is everything to these girls. Designer dresses, expensive shoes, finding the perfect date, they all go crazy for it. And to make matters worse, Jane, Lizzie's best and only friend, has been swept off her feet by Charles Bingley, who is back from a semester abroad in London. It wouldn't be that bad if it weren't for his absolutely awful best friend, Will Darcy. This is probably my second favorite Pride and Prejudice retelling that I've read. The other one is a version with dragons, so it doesn't necessarily fit on this list. This is very much a, like, guilty pleasure, like, devour it in a day kind of read for me. Probably a really good slump buster, definitely not at all, like, serious canon-changing literature, not diverse at all, like it does talk about class a little bit, but other than that, like, just the fluffiest, cheesiest thing that you could possibly pick up, and I love it. It's just fun. And I own it. I don't know why I didn't hold it up for you earlier, but here it is, in all of its glory. Yeah, it is definitely not peak literature, but it is peak enjoyment. Next, we have The Summer of Jordi Perez and the Best Burger in Los Angeles. Our main character, Abby Ives, knows absolutely everything there is to know about plus-size fashion. She dreams of working in the industry one day, and part of that is running a blog dedicated to cute outfits for plus-sized girls. And it's because of this blog that she is able to score the perfect summer internship at her absolute favorite boutique in town. She's hoping that it will launch her career in fashion and maybe even score her a full-time job in the fall. But once she gets there, she finds out that she is competing with another intern for a full-time position. The other intern, Jordi Perez, is a very talented photographer and also a very pretty girl that Abby has some feelings for, maybe. At the same time, Abby befriends this goofy lacrosse player named Jax, and they team up to search for the best burger in Los Angeles. That's the whole ridiculous subplot that I love. This is one of the first contemporary books I read where two girls are in love with each other, and so it will always have a special place in my heart. And then also I just love Abby and Jax's friendship. It's real like lesbian jock solidarity that you don't see very often, but is like the purest thing in the world, and we stan. Next is Everything Leads to You by Nina LaCour. I love everything that I've read by Nina LaCour, but this one is by far the cutest. The main character, Emmy, is an aspiring set designer who's living and working in Hollywood right after graduation. And she and her best friend accidentally stumble upon the fact that this very famous Hollywood actor, like one of the greats, had a daughter and has a long-lost granddaughter that nobody ever knew about. They track this girl down, her name is Ava, and Emmy instantly is like, I like her. She, in fact, helps Ava to launch her own acting career, and they start working together on this movie, and it's adorable, and I love it very much. As somebody who would like to potentially work in film in the future, I was super excited to read a book that was all about girls on set doing their thing, and then falling in love. Like, that was, it's really good. Next we have Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. Depending on when this video goes out, it may or may not be out yet, but it comes out on January 21st, 2020. So you tell me. So we have two main characters, Pepper and Jack. Pepper's mother is the head of a franchise of restaurants called Big League Burger. Jack's family runs a very small deli in New York City called Girl Cheesin'. When Big League Burger announces a brand new line of grilled cheeses, Jack realizes that one of them is a total ripoff of his family's signature sandwich. So he does what any person my age would do, and he goes on Twitter and calls them out for it. Pepper is then recruited by her mother's flailing social media head to help clap back at that. And the two of them, unbeknownst to each other, start a little Twitter feud. But the thing is, they know each other in real life. When they find out that they've been warring against each other, they make it into a wager and they start becoming really close. But at the same time, Jack has programmed this app called Weasel. Only people from their school can use it, and it's this anonymous chat room where everyone is assigned randomly an animal as their username. You can start talking to people, but at a certain point, pop goes the weasel, you're revealed to each other, and you find out who you've been talking to. They've been talking to each other, but neither one knows it because Jack has gone in and tampered with it so that they haven't been revealed yet. So while they're falling for each other in real life, they've already fallen for each other through Weasel, and it's great, it's adorable, and I'm obsessed with it. Next we have I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver. When Ben DeBacker comes out as non-binary to their parents, it goes not great. Just absolutely terribly. They are thrown out of their house and forced to move in with their estranged sister Hannah and her husband Thomas. New school, new family, new therapist, everything in Ben's life has suddenly become very complicated. Enter the incredibly charming Nathan, who decides that Ben needs some new friends at their new school and kind of takes them under his wing. As the two grow closer, Ben realizes they might have feelings for Nathan, but Nathan does not know about Ben's non-binary identity, and Ben is way too afraid to come out again after what happened the first time. it's good. It's really good. It's a coming out story and a love story and just something that seemed very fresh to me at the same time. Like, even though it was, you know, a coming out story and I've read those before, I'd never read a non-binary one, and so that whole perspective was new to me. In the future, I would love to read more books with non-binary main characters. I just am not necessarily aware of them as much. It's not something that I identify with personally, and so my radar is not as fine-tuned to it as it would be for, like, you know, a sapphic romance. If you have any recommendations, contemporary or otherwise, with non-binary characters, please comment down below, because I am always looking to expand my reading horizons, especially when it comes to representation and diversity. Last but certainly not least, we have Words in Deep Blue by Kath Crowley. Henry Jones and Rachel Sweetie are best friends, or at least they used to be before her family moved away. It's been several years, but now Rachel is back, working at Howling Books, the bookstore that Henry's family owns, at least for now, and secretly grieving the loss of her younger brother Cal. But the more time she and Henry spend together, the more feelings from the past are starting to rise up, despite her best efforts to quench them. First of all, this book is set in Australia, which, like, what? I remember the moment I realized this and was, like, totally shocked, and I don't know. I don't think I've ever read anything else set in Australia. I absolutely love the relationships between these characters. Not only do you have this friendship to strangers, back to friendship to romance, maybe, kind of relationship between Henry and Rachel, but there are also just some really lovely family relationships portrayed as well. There's a secondary romance that happens in this book that is told through letters left in books in the bookstore that is kind of a little mystery, and it's very, very adorable, but also a little heartbreaking at the same time. That's just this book. It's adorable but heartbreaking at the same time, as it is dealing with loss of a sibling, but also loss of a person that you used to be, and how do you move forward with people who knew that person even though you aren't necessarily that person now. Alright, that is all that I have for you guys this week. If you liked this video and you want to see more from my channel, then please click that subscribe button and ring the little bell icon so you can be notified every time that I post a new video. Comment down below, what is your favorite contemporary romance and why should I read it? With that being said, my name is Evelyn. I make new videos every magical Monday, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.